Welcome, everybody, to our third Motorsports edition of Sideline to Speedway. Here I am your host, as always, Mekhi Winfrey, joined by Parker Merrey. Me and Parker had a quick discussion. It wasn't really quick. We had a discussion before the podcast today. We decided we were going to spoil you guys at the end of the episode. We did our F1 driver rankings, so you guys get to hear that. That'll be fun. We're excited to share those with you. But first, we get to talk some NASCAR, as that is the only series that raced this past weekend at Bristol. Without further ado, we had four drivers that were eliminated from the playoffs. We had Alex Bowman, Shane Van Gisbergen, Austin Dillon, and Josh Berry. I want to start talking about those guys who were eliminated before we kind of get to the full race first. I don't know if you disagree with that idea, but I want to talk about those guys first. So I'll let you take the wheel on Alex Bowman because I know we both had him going far in the playoffs, and his playoffs came to an end early.
Yeah, it's tough for Alex Bowman. He had a pretty decent race car at Bristol, although it was kind of hard to tell who had a good car and who didn't because of the tire discrepancies and the high tire wear we saw, which I thought was fantastic. I think they did a great job with the tire. Um, I think we need something to spice up this next gen race car, and we got it. But back to Alex Bowman. I think he got really close to winning that race a couple times. And at times it looked like the prediction of having Bowman winning the race was going to be correct. Ultimately, it didn't pan out, though. He really fell back on that last restart. Just never really got a chance to lead the race and see what he could do out front. And so he is eliminated after having pretty much a career year for him. Very disappointed. I'm not sure what 2026 is going to look like for that team. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of people that are already putting pressure on him. So, that's a really tough elimination for him to deal with.
Alex Bowman's a driver that's faced pressure his entire career. He'll have to figure out. This will be the most, though, because of all the prospects in Chevrolet right now and all the potential replacements. We always heard names going around, but nobody realistically that would take the 48. This is the first, we're going into 2026. There's going to be realistic candidates that could take it, so he's really going to need that year just to break out even more and propel himself to that next level so he keeps his seat. But while he was the big name that got eliminated, he ended up getting really close. He actually was, at one point, he was tied on the cut line. He was right there, but I think he finished about 8 out, maybe 6 out. He was close.
Yeah.
So ultimately to no cigar for him. But another driver who actually looked like they had some speed in Bristol and race ended abruptly early, Josh Berry. Man, I feel bad. You got to feel bad for him, right? I mean, 3 races, 3 DNFs, and really 2 of them were not his fault at all. I mean, you could blame Darlington on him, right? That was a stupid mistake that he made. But Gateway, where he just kind of just got hit into the wall, and then his engine going at Bristol, that's kind of just uncharacteristic from Wood Brothers. They never really have mechanical problems. So I don't know. What are your takes on that?
Yeah, I think it's really tough, but I think they're one of the teams that have already accomplished their goal this year. I think getting a win and making the playoffs, if you told them that they were going to do that at the beginning of the year, they would have been ecstatic with it. So although it is disappointing that they go out in the way they did without really having a chance to show what they got, I think it's ultimately a win for them this whole season. They have a lot to build on for next year. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, 3 DNFs in 1 round is that's hard to deal with. We've hardly ever seen anyone DNF 3 races in a row, much less in the playoffs in a single round. So yeah, that was
Uncharacteristic.
tough. Yeah, that was tough to see, and he's out. We had him out in the first round anyway, but
Not
you
that
never
way.
know. Not that way. You never know. I thought he would be pretty good at Bristol, but we didn't really get a chance to see that.
We both thought that, and he was actually running well until his DNF. So unfortunate for them. I know a lot of Barry fans will be upset with that result, but again, as you said, Parker, it's just a successful season overall, getting a win, getting into the playoffs. That's back-to-back years too, technically. So good for the Wood Brothers team.
Yeah.
So I think that's at least something to build off of. Another driver who does have stuff to build off of is SVG. His season comes to an end early. He he just kind of ran 25th all round, right? Just kind of where he'd been all season. We all thought, or not all of us, but a lot of people thought that he'd take a step up maybe he'd be at least closer, where he could run 20th and he'd have maybe all the playoff drivers' misfortunes, he'd get himself in, but just wasn't the case. Never really at any racetrack besides Gateway where he had played strategy, never really ran higher than 18th at any point. So I don't know. I mean, would you consider it a successful season for SVG, or do you think that they were going in there knowing the four playoff wins at road or playoff? Excuse me, four wins at road courses into the playoffs. Do you think that they accomplished the goal, or do you think they were falling short of that?
I think they're another team that absolutely accomplished the goal. In coming into this year, I wasn't even sure if they would win a race. And so for them to win four races, I think they're very happy. They did make some, some improvements on the ovals. It's not perfect, but I don't think it was ever gonna be. You know what I mean? This is a multi-year project. I don't see them being competitive at the ovals until maybe the end of next year or the beginning of 2027. I think this is going to take a while. It doesn't help that Trackhouse itself is not necessarily very stable right now. They're trying to figure out how to get Chastain going. They're trying to figure out how to get the second car, the 99, going. So a third car, I mean, that's it'll be a while to that car is fast at the oval. So I will, I'm not surprised that they're eliminated. I don't think it's a bad thing. Obviously, you'd like to make it, but I think similar to Josh Berry, they already accomplished their goal this year. So I think they should be happy with the year that they had.
You could chalk that up to also, I mean, how much is Chevrolet really giving them? I mean, Hendrick is so far and away the best Chevrolet team. Do you almost have to question, is Trackhouse really the second team right there? I know we know Haas Factory is switching manufacturers next season. They're getting an alliance with is it RCR or are they getting a Hendrick alliance? I don't remember.
It's
I think it's
RCR.
RCR, right? Yeah. So RCR is technically the second team at Chevrolet. So we'll see how Trackhouse is with, I heard, the potential of a new manufacturer entering the sport, but we'll see that and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in future episodes. Last driver that was eliminated was Austin Dillon. Speaking of RCR, um, I mean, there's not too much to talk about, right? He's just he ran where we expected. His playoffs kind of ended up. He I think his playoffs kind of got derailed at Darlington when he got set back on a pit stop when he was like 20 something, and then he just couldn't pass, and he was stuck in the back of the field. And then trying to rely on Gateway and Bristol as a team that's not exactly as strong is not a good idea, and I think that kind of led to their demise.
hmm It's interesting. Of all the four drivers that got eliminated, Austin Dillon was in probably the best points situation. And there. I think if he finished 12th, I think he would have pointed his way in over Austin Centric. It was either 10th or 12th, but I remember seeing that graphic of where the drivers needed to finish to get in at Bristol. So if he has a good run, he probably advances. For Austin Dillon, I think it's a little different than what we see with Barry and Gisbergen. This needed to be a year where the three team took steps up. For me, in my opinion, if they wanted to take a step up, they would need to make a round of 8 run. They would have needed to advance past the first 2 rounds, because even if they make it past Bristol and get into the second round, what they have, I still feel like they haven't accomplished something. They're still the 3 team of Boston Dillon. But if you make the round of 8, you've done better than 50% of the playoff drivers, and suddenly you're like, okay, wait a minute, this 3 team, they might have something. And Austin Dillon is a driver. I think people forget he was actually a very highly respected prospect. And so Austin Dillon is supposed to be a highly talented race car driver.
I don't
So
think he's
he
not.
wants, yeah, I mean, wait, what?
I don't think he's not. I think he is a
Yeah,
highly
of course. But for him to start to get a career resurgence, they need to make a deep playoff run this year. So for him to be eliminated, I think it's really heartbreaking. And I think the window for Austin Dillon to be great as a race car driver is starting to close. I think this needed to be the year that they made a step. Now, who knows if he'll even make the playoffs again in his career. So I don't know. I really needed to see something out of them, but I don't think they've made any improvements on that team.
You could chalk that up to RCR. You could chalk it up to Austin Dillon. I would put more of it on RCR. That team has just not been competitive since the start of 2023. So, I mean, they had spurts in times the past over 2.5 years, but nothing enough to where I would say that they have improved to being a playoff caliber team, which is why I chalk it up to a better season than most, because I know the idea, the goal, make it a round of 12, make it a round of 8, right? He wants to be considered a higher level driver than where he is. I don't think the car's capable. I think if he had gotten to the round of eight, that would have spoken more about Austin Dillon than it would have RCR. And
Exactly.
I mean, him not getting there, I don't think is a discredit to him more than it is the team because they just let's put it blankly. There's 400 cars, there's four Gibbs cars, there's three Penske cars.
Right.
So so I mean, like it was gonna be a tall task, right? Let's just be honest. And two 2311 cars. So or it was three Gibbs cars. You know what I'm saying? There's a hurdle to climb.
Yeah.
So I think him getting into the playoffs was the goal, and accomplishing that is a good thing. Um, Otherwise from Bristol, it was a great race. Honestly, that was the most fun I've had watching a Bristol race in a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah, that was the Bristol Night Race has always been my favorite Cup race. So when the next gen came and the race really got ruined, we have yet to see a good Bristol Night Race in the next gen era. I was heartbroken. I'm like, because I actually want to go to the Bristol Night Race someday, but I ain't going as long as we have the next gen car. Absolutely not. But who knows? I might be going to Bristol Night Race sooner than we think if we have tire wear like that. We kind of saw that at the spring race last year. We saw high tire wear. I think that one was a little too marginal because we saw a lot of blowouts. This weekend, we really didn't. But what we did see is a lot of fires, which, if I had to guess, the fires were caused by rubber buildup from the tires because you don't see that anywhere else.
That's
So
that's a car problem. Doesn't
yeah, yeah, I would attribute it to you know to that. So I'm not sure how they're going to fix that because going forward, we don't want to see fires. We don't want to see the
people
tire
endangering.
wear cause these issues because the tires are good. It's just it's whether it gels with the car correctly, which with the fires it doesn't seem like it does. 'Cause, you know, tire rubber should not be
It
igniting race-ending fires. It
it's a
really should.
little it's a little interesting though because at Homestead that didn't happen. When they were at Fontana when that track would age, that didn't happen. Even at other tracks like Richmond where it's a pretty big tire fall off, Darlington doesn't happen. I mean, it happened to Darlington one year, but other than that, it's really an uncommon issue. So I'm surprised a little bit, but I'm not totally. I just think that if NASCAR can make a little change to the car, possibly to avoid that, they have a good tire for these short tracks that they can run with, and it will be a huge difference. They don't need it at Martinsville. Martinsville is a bump and pass track, but like Bristol, your Richmonds, where your Iowas even, where you can use multiple lanes. I think it would be a good tire to have, honestly. So I was inspired by what I saw this past weekend. I had fun watching. Um, Talking about a couple of the drivers though, and maybe some of the guys who advanced or guys who weren't in the playoffs. Real quick, before we talk about any of the playoff drivers, Ty Gibbs led 200 and I think it was 201 laps or something.
Yep.
That's just unfortunate, man. What was it? Did he speed? What was the pit road problem? Just
He
late.
missed pit road
He missed pit road.
entirely.
Yeah, he missed
Yeah.
pit road. So uh, another chance to get his first career win just kind of gone in the wind, right? Um,
hmm
I ask you, how many more race potentially winning cars can you give him before you chalk it up to he's just not gonna win?
So for me, what I've seen from the 54 team this year, and to answer your question, I think it's going to be a lot of race cars. Because I think a driver with that talent, we saw it took Joey Logano 5 years. It wasn't until his fifth, even really his sixth year that he was consistently starting to win races. And there was a team change in between there. Ty Gibbs probably will never get away from Gibbs. If he leaves Gibbs, he'll probably be out of NASCAR. So I think Ty Gibbs still has a couple more years before we start to question. Well, there's already questions, but before we completely,
Write him off and
write him off. Because
like
right now, there's a lot of people that don't consider him to be a top talent. There's people that we both talked to that are already writing him off. But for me, it would take a lot because um, there's been Ty Gibbs has had a lot of impressive performances the last couple of years. Obviously, he's been really good at Bristol. I think his best career race was actually the earlier this year in Mexico, where
he
the
honestly
only
should have won
driver,
that race. He honestly
yeah,
should
the
have.
only driver who we've seen really go toe to toe with Gisbergen at a road course this year has been Ty Gibbs in Mexico. He had pace to legitimately beat SVG, but then they split strategies because of the impending rain, and SVG ended up getting the. I don't remember the exact
There's a
specifics.
debris caution in there too, and that kind of really threw a wrench into everything. Or it was a
Yeah,
debris, it was a wreck, something. There was another caution, and then because of the way the tires worked out, SVG
yeah,
kind of just had an advantage.
yeah. If I remember correctly, yeah, SVG stayed out to try to get to the pit window, and then
And
we
then the
caught some
caution,
cautions that
and then he
allowed
came
him
in
to.
pit, and he came out the
Yeah,
leader, and then that was it. So
yeah. And Ty Gibbs was stuck back in 15th because he just pitted. But yeah, I've seen a lot of good performances out of Ty Gibbs. I've seen flashes of his talent. But we just need to see him put that, consistently on a week to week basis, which I think he does next year. I do think he will take that next step. It is getting a little harder though with Briscoe getting as good as he is, because you could argue he's going to be you can't even argue. He is right now the fourth priority at Joe Gibbs Racing. He is not going to be getting top tier equipment. So I think he has a lot to prove next year, and he's going to have a hard time proving it. But I like what I see out of him, and it's going to take me a while before I start writing him off. I think he could win a race this year, but I think he's definitely going to win next year. I think the first win for Gibbs is coming very soon.
I think Ty Gibbs is in a great position. Honestly, I know everyone wants to write him off and say that, or say that he's not going to win because um, he just hasn't put it together yet. And I know in NASCAR, and not just NASCAR, in sports in general, we're easy to judge somebody off of a couple years. But truth be told, some people just don't. It doesn't click immediately. It just takes time, and especially considering it's a very different car than the Xfinity car, which he was so good in. Um, I do want to give him benefit of the doubt. I am a little concerned that he didn't make the playoffs. That's a bit concerning, but the winning speed is there if he can just well, I'm sure sooner than later he'll eventually find victory lane. But speaking of victory lane, Christopher Bell was the actual winner, so his teammate ended up capitalizing on all of the late race chaos that ensued. It didn't come without contact, though. Brad Keselowski tried his damnedest to get to his back bumper and move him, and I want to get your thoughts on that because it was a very, very controversial topic at the end of the race. Brad Keselowski seemed to hit him about as hard as you can without wrecking yourself. So with Bell not even having his car moved, what do you take of that?
These cars are tanks. And when NASCAR built this car, they thought a tank was good. Yeah, we get tanks. We're gonna be able to bang doors and hit quarter panels. We're not gonna rub the tires. But then we create these issues of stiff race cars, lack of driver handling. The drivers don't have a feel for the car. That the most common phrase we hear is like, "Oh, it snaps loose." You
You
don't have
don't know,
any feel
yeah,
for the car, and then all of a sudden it snaps.
you don't know when it's gonna get sideways.
Yeah, yeah, it's just all, you're almost blind to it. You're just driving and all of a sudden, boom, it snaps, and you have no feel for it. These and another thing that luckily they fixed now was how stiff the cars were. If you crashed, the car itself would not take the impact, but the driver would, and it ended Kurt Busch's career. So these cars being tanks have always been an issue, and I think that the Bristol Night Race, the finish of that race, was a perfect example of that. Kozlowski goes in, he hits Bell's tank, and it doesn't move.
You don't even call it
They
the
slide
car.
up
You
the
just call it the
track.
tank.
Yeah, they just slide up the track, but they don't actually get sideways. You don't lose any control of the race car. You just get, your speed goes up because you get bumped from behind by a car that's going quicker, and you slide up, but you don't actually lose handle of the car. Both cars just hit each other and go up the track. Um, we just need, like, the concept of having a very strong race car is good, but it just they missed it with the next gen car.
I,
And
did-
so
I was gonna say I don't even think Bell moved up. Like he when he got hit, Brad moved up the track. He went way up, but Bell didn't move at all. Like he literally held his lane. He
he
maybe
moved a
moved
little up
like
off the
maybe
bottom,
a quarter of a lane, but like it really wasn't that
but he
much.
didn't lose control of the car. He just moved.
He was like
He just
this. You watch his
slid
hands.
up
He's
a
did
little
this.
bit.
That's literally all that
Yeah, I don't.
happened.
I doubt his wheels even. He didn't have to correct the car or anything. It literally just moved the car up because it got hit from behind by a quicker car. It didn't actually, lose. He didn't lose control. He just went into the corner a little quicker than he would like to. But yeah, they're really. I don't think there's a fix either. I think we just have to wait it out till the next race car. There are things you can do to improve the racing product, such as the tires, which they're experimenting in. Um, and I think it's good that they're experimenting with the tires. I think it shows that they do want to change some things. But I think we're just in terms of stuff like what we saw, where getting into a car and actually getting them loose and moving them up the track. There's really no, I don't think there's a fix for that until we get a new car.
A couple of the drivers from this race, I don't really want to sit on them, but I want to mention them. They've had great races. Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith, they'll forever go at it. They raced really well. As we talked about, Brad Keselowski had a great race. Chris Buescher was up front a decent bit of this race. Bubba Wallace, a playoff driver, but he was up front a lot. Blaney as well, he's a playoff driver. Um, oh my God, there's another driver I'm forgetting. He ran up front a lot of this race too. Um, excuse me, just forgetting entirely. But there was a
All the
point.
Penske cars, Logano and Cindric.
Allmendinger, sorry, Allmendinger. That's who I was trying to think
Allmendinger,
of.
yeah.
He ran well too. So it was a nice race to see some non-playoff drivers kind of at the front of the field and racing it, dicing it up, seeing that they can do it. I really quickly before we move on to the round of 12, I just wanted to hit on the guys who are still in the playoffs actually. Cindric, he had his engine failure, but he ended up being able to point his way through. He ran kind of middle of the pack towards the front of it all night. He was in the back end of the top 10, mid top 15. Um, he ran all right. I talked about Blaney. He ran well. So did Bubba before his crash. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. Corey Heim as well. He finished well. He finished, I think, sixth, which is
Yeah. Corey
uh,
Heim had a career day.
uh,
He's gonna be good.
didn't want to forget that. I had to make sure I hit that. But yeah, Corey Heim ran well as well, so good for him. But Bubba ran well, as I said. Reddick kind of just did his own thing at Bristol, as he usually does. He was good enough on points anyway. Byron was the worst Hendrick car all night. I don't know if that's crazy to say. He was up front, but he didn't look the fastest. Larson was pretty good. Elliott was fast before he had what did his engine fail too? I think because of the rubber.
No,
He
he got in a crash,
or he got in a crash, right? Um, so
which I would
I
argue
swear,
wasn't his
it,
fault.
it was his own fault. Um, yeah. So Elliott, Nemechek ran well too. By the way, I forgot him and Jones as well. LMC is continuing to do their pattern of
Oh, yeah.
things. So many guys ran well. Is there any other playoff drivers? Hamlin kind of had his issues. I think he crashed as well. He was out early. Logano ran around 10th all night, kind of. Um, is there anyone else? I don't think there's any other driver I really need to touch on. Um, it was kind of a fun Bristol race. It was a nice refresher. Um, and it was good because we go to a track that has been historically inconsistent, I could say, at New Hampshire, as that leads us into our round of 12 here. Um, we go to New Hampshire, Kansas, Charlotte, Roval this round, Parker. We did our playoff predictions at the start of this podcast a couple weeks ago. Um, obviously, neither of us were correct completely with our predictions, so we're going to have to change it up a little bit. So we'll go on the fly here. What four drivers are out in this round and why?
So first off, the two easiest ones for me are going to be Ross Chastain and Austin Cindric. Um, I'm not crazy about the track lineup for these guys.
Chastain's good at
And
Kansas, but he'd have to win.
yeah, so just the problem for me is I think of you look at these 12 drivers, they lack the speed right now. You know what I mean? Chastain definitely lacks it. Cindric has been getting a little better the last few weeks. I will say I'm very impressed by what Cindric has been doing. I feel like this year has been he needed to have a year like this where he really steps it up. And it's his fourth year. You want to see some progress, and he's done that. He's kind of gotten out of the cycle of, oh, I'm just the third Penske driver who will maybe make the playoffs. But if I make the playoffs, funny enough, he's actually never been eliminated in the first
He's
round.
always made it around
So
12, so good for him.
technically he's still where he's been his whole career. But I think you and I can both agree that they're clicking right now for him more than they have ever before. But I think he's going to be out, and then Chastain, of course, it's a trackhouse car. They're going to struggle for pace. Another driver that I'm going to have out. This one could surprise some people, and I had him out in my original bracket. I'm going to have the 9 of Chase Elliott out in this round.
They
Again,
got lucky.
he again, he's not been that good recently, and the trademark Chase Elliott trait this year has been his consistency, but we started to see that consistency kind of fall off a cliff. He's had a couple DNFs recently. Richmond, you can't put blame on him, but Bristol was most definitely his fault. Hasn't He's been a little inconsistent. He had a pretty fast car at Gateway and Bristol. wasn't able to get a fantastic result at either one. He crashed at
I
Bristol.
think he got a top 10 at Gateway. I think he got like seventh or something, or eighth or something.
Yeah, somewhere around that. Not a great result, but it could be good enough to get you into the round of 8. If you finish seventh 3 times, you should be in. But just I don't like that team right now. And I said this on the last podcast. I'm going to stick to it. If you just look at pure speed, I think he might be the fourth Hendrick car right now. So I don't like what I see out of them. I'm now, before I get to my last elimination, I'm going to talk about the guys that I think are most definitely in. Hamlin, Byron, Larson, Bell, Blaney, Briscoe. I think those 6 to me are locks. I don't see them being eliminated. So then it kind of comes down to Bubba Wallace, Joey Logano, and Tyler Reddick. I have to have 2 of them in, one of them being eliminated. And I know you're not going to like it.
Okay, here we
I
go.
don't even like doing
Here we
it. I
go.
don't even like doing
Here we
it
go. Go
because
ahead.
he's
Say
so
it. Just
hot
say it.
lately.
Say it.
I'm gonna have Bubba Wallace out in this round. Um, Great at Kansas, and that's about it for me. I don't think he's not great at road courses. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's been that great at New
He's
Hampshire.
he's really good at New Hampshire actually. It's one of his better tracks. Not great, not his best, but he's good
Yeah, I
there.
don't think it's. I mean, it might be better than I'm giving him credit for. I've never considered it to be one of his best. But right now of those 3, he's been the fastest the last couple of months. But when I look at the playoff experience, it's hard to count out Joey Logano, and even though Bubba's been better than Tyler Reddick this year, I do trust Reddick more. I think Reddick is a little better at these racetracks. I definitely trust him better at the Roval. That's for sure. If it weren't for the Roval, I would probably give Bubba the edge over Reddick. But just the fact that we have a road course in here and Reddick is, I would consider a lot better than Bubba Wallace at road courses. Now Bubba's come a long way. A few years ago, he was one of the worst drivers at road courses. But I think I'm gonna have Bubba out in this round and gonna have him being barely beat by his teammate Reddick to get in.
You know what? Fair enough. I'm not gonna argue most of that. Chastain, I'm in agreement with. I just the one car is just definitively the slowest car of those remaining 12, like on
Absolutely.
actual pace. So, and
Yeah.
it's not his fault. I'm not. I want to clarify. We are not blaming Chastain
Yeah.
on his
There's
lack of
nothing he
pace.
can do. Even
We're saying he's dragging that car farther than it should be. But
yeah.
that is the most that he's gonna get out of that. I also think Cindric is out. Although if Cindric can make the round of 8, I'd say that this will be a year we have to look at and be like, okay, maybe Cindric is starting to really pick it up. Maybe he's really kind of catching up to his teammates finally. That would be an important thing, although I don't see that happening. So I'm agreeing in there. I am going to agree with you on Chase Elliott. I'm not going to call you crazy for
Hey,
that
there we go.
because I think Chase Elliott actually isn't on a lack of pace. I actually think he'll be pretty good at New Hampshire. I think he's good at, obviously he's great at the Roval. Um, I think he'll run well. I just think he's gonna. The 9 isn't clicking. Something's wrong. The pit crew. It's always something. Like the 48, the pit crew messes up. Alan Gustafson makes it call it questionable. Chase Elliott makes a rare driver error that's been happening recently.
Yeah.
He overdrove Gateway, wrecked himself at Bristol. Wasn't fast at Darlington. I mean, I don't know. I'm indifferent about that team, and it's to a point where I don't think they're any better than any of the other 9 teams that you named previously. So I agree there. However, I am not taking the 23 out. I said they'd make the round of 8,
I
and
figured.
honestly, they are proving me right. I know you were saying that because it's also possible that the 23 falls off. I've seen it. We've seen it happen. But um, you know what? I'm gonna take the 22, and I know you're gonna say he's great at Kansas, and he is. He's historically one of the best, if not the best, playoff driver in playoff Kansas. Right? I understand that. Um, but the Charlotte Roval, although one of his better road courses, he's not been good at the road courses in a next gen car. Just point blank, he hasn't. And on top of that, I don't think he's all that great at next gen New Hampshire. I think he's all right there. I think he's good enough where he'll be on the cut line, but I don't think he's gonna. I think the other 8 cars are just faster. I think they are. And before you correct me on Bubba Wallace, I want to say this: Bubba Wallace has a third place finish in 2022, an eighth in 2023, and he was in the top 5 before he got in a wreck in 2024. So he finished 34th. So Bubba Wallace is great at New Hampshire, great at Kansas, and I think he'll be good enough at the Roval to survive and make it through. And I agree with the other 7 as well. So those are our round of 12 eliminations. Do you have any other comments before we kind of kick this round off at New Hampshire and just in general for what we might need to see or what we don't want to see?
To kind of respond on your thing with Logano, um, I think you're sleeping on him. I'm gonna be honest. He's way better at New Hampshire than he gave him credit for. In 2022, he was battling for the win before he had to pit for fuel. In 2023, he was battling for the win but couldn't be one of the most dominant next gen cars we've seen. In 2024, he was top five until he got in that crash. So he's literally his floor at New Hampshire in the next gen is probably fifth. So I would be shocked if he doesn't finish top five this weekend. And then the Roval, although I don't think he's great there, the only time he's finished outside the top 10 in the history of the Charlotte Roval was when he got crashed in
Yeah,
that
that
everyone got crashed in that 2022 race.
that
So
yeah.
yeah, historically he should get a top 10 at the Roval. And then Kansas, he's
I
up
already
and
gave
down.
him I gave him his praise there, but he is better.
Yeah.
He's good there. I just think he has historically been this year he's been inconsistent at what have been historically his good tracks. We saw it at Darlington. They were subpar for what is usually one of their better tracks. Now they were good
That
at
is that
Gateway.
is that is a weird fact.
They um they were good at Gateway, so like they have this inconsistent pattern. They're good at some of their good
Yeah.
tracks and bad at some of their good tracks.
No,
So
I feel you on that. It's
I'm
weird
I don't
that he was
trust it.
bad at Darlington and good at Bristol. That was very weird.
I don't trust it. Something sticks out to me there. I think he's bound to have one of these three tracks just be bad for him, and it'll come to cost him because I don't think he's overall as fast as the other eight at the moment. So yeah, those are the eliminations. Real quick before we kind of move along here, what I want to talk about is I want to say what I need from a couple drivers, not everybody, but um, from Bubba Wallace, I need him to not fall apart. If he misses the round of eight because he simply was either let down from the team or they just were not fast enough, that's one thing. But I don't need him, the driver, to fall apart. I need him to be mistake free, if not only one all round. I need it to be a near flawless round from him as a driver. That'll speak a lot to me. I need Tyler Reddick to be consistent this round because he went up at Darlington to a Gateway and at Bristol. So I need a consistent race from Tyler. Or I need a consistent round from Tyler Reddick. I already told you what I want from Logano. And the other driver that I want to talk about, I need William Byron to reappear because I did the points and I've
Sure.
been doing this side format. I won't dwell too far onto it, but he is currently with. If we just gave bonus points for wins and everyone else was at a complete reset and the bonus points were 3 points per win, so like how they were like 10, 15 years ago, he'd be
Mhm.
ninth right now. Ninth without
Yeah.
all those bonus points. So it's a little bit of a red flag to me. I need him to be a little bit more consistent and fast, but I think he can do it, so I have him making it through. But I want to see that from him because if not, it's a little concerning. Do you have anything else you want to see before we kind of switch topics here?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of copy your format there. I'm gonna talk about a few drivers that I need to see a lot out of. Obviously, William Byron. He's having, I would consider his current season to be very similar to what we saw out of Chase Elliott in 2022.
Without the winning,
Yeah, yeah. Byron only has two. Elliott had five wins in
yeah.
2022. But super consistent in the regular season. Both won the regular season titles by a large margin. And then once we got to the playoffs, they both fell off a cliff. And look what happened to Elliott. He didn't win the championship. And although he had decent pace at Phoenix, he didn't have. If you went into the playoffs and asked how fast do you think Chase Elliott could be at Phoenix, you would say, "Oh, he'd be the dominant car," but he really wasn't. And then of course he got in the incident. But so William Byron does not need to fall to the same fate. He needs to start getting the speed going because you have to have. I believe we talked about this on the last podcast. The only guy who's won the championship without winning a race before the championship race in the playoffs was Kyle Busch in 2015,
In
and he did it in
2019.
2019 as well.
So
So
yeah, only one.
Kyle Busch is the only driver who's done it. Everyone else wins to get into the Final Four or wins at some point in the playoffs. So we need to start seeing winning speed out of Byron. But the two biggest guys who I think have the most at stake when it comes to just their career and their resume is, of course, Bubba Wallace and I think Austin Cindric. Cindric not as much so because he's younger and has had less experience. If Cindric doesn't make the round of eight this year, it's gonna be like, dang, that was close. We'll get him next year. But like for Bubba Wallace, if he doesn't make it this year, I think it's very similar to the current storyline around Alex Bowman. You just had a career year and you didn't do anything with it. you made, because Bubba got eliminated in the round of 12 in 2023, right? So
Yeah.
this is pretty much a lateral move for his career. Yeah, he had a great year, but you still got eliminated in the second round. Bubba Wall, there's no driver in the current top 12 who has more at stake than Bubba Wallace. He has to advance if he wants to, prove himself. And um, because when you have a year where you're better than Tyler Reddick, you have to take advantage of it. You can't just let this fall to the wayside. And I'm afraid that he might do that.
The comment I will make on that is I don't know if he has the most at stake exactly. I think he could miss the round of 8 and be fine, but I think he has the most to prove because you said it. Cindric has nothing to prove, and then everyone else is either a champion or has made a Final Four, basically, right? I think with maybe one exception. I can't
Yeah,
remember off the top of my head.
Briscoe and Cindric are pretty much the only other ones who have not.
And Briscoe is having a career year that it looks
Exactly.
great right now, so he doesn't have anything to prove. Bubba Wallace has the most to prove. If he makes the round of 8, his season is successful. I honestly think if he makes the round of 8, he can chalk it up to a good season because
Yeah.
nobody had that expectation for him.
Yeah.
Nobody had the expectation he'd honestly be as close to his teammate as he is, let alone outrunning him. So
Yeah.
if he can go make the round of 8, hats off to him. He had a great year. Um, I understand why people won't have him make it. Honestly, at this point, it's fair, but let's just see how it happens. If we go to Kansas and New Hampshire and he's above the cut line, at least by at least 15, 20 points, I would feel comfortable. I would feel comfortable, honestly.
I would.
I know that sounds close, but Bubba Wallace at the Charlotte Roval the last 2 years has actually been running pretty solid. He actually had a pole. I think he was started on the front row there a couple of years ago too. And at a track that's statistically hard to pass at in the next gen, I would be pretty comfortable with that. So, we'll see though. Um, Another track that is statistically hard to pass at is the one that F1's headed to this weekend.
Uh,
We are going to Azerbaijan or Baku, whatever you want to call it. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix is coming up. Um, well, entering this race, what's the gap? 37, right? Or 32 from Piastri to Norris?
I believe it's 32.
We'll get the number checked here on that. But yeah, entering this weekend, it is a continuation of that points battle between Piastri and Norris. Verstappen coming off the win in Monza. We'll see if he can carry his
31.
momentum. So 31 point gap, excuse me. So we'll see how that goes. But what do you? I'm gonna ask you before I kind of think I ask you to give me your general thoughts on the weekend between the two title guys. What are you expecting or what do you want to have happen here?
So I think Oscar Piastri is in a very similar position to Nico Rosberg in 2016. Norris has had a mechanical issue. So now Piastri needs to be conservative. I'm not saying just lay back and, let Norris win, but he needs to be very, if he can't let Norris force him into an error, because as we saw in Monza with Norris and Verstappen, Norris is going to be hyper aggressive. And so if they go down into turn 1 at the start and Norris puts Piastri in a back out or we crash situation,
Take it. Just
Piastri
back
needs
out.
to back out
Just
and
back
give
out.
it to him. Because Piastri's a quicker driver. He has the rest of the race where he can get by him again. Piastri just cannot let Norris
Get in
pull
his
him into
head.
this game of mistakes. He can't let that happen. So Piastri needs to be really conservative. Norris, on the other hand, needs to force a mistake out of Piastri. He needs to, like I said, put Piastri in those back out of crash situations. Um, because we saw Verstappen do it a lot in 2021, and he got away with it. The FIA is fine with it as long as you're close enough alongside the other driver. So I think where the FIA gets a little hesitant on is when you're only at the rear tire of another car. In that case, Norris can't do it because then you probably risk a penalty. But so yeah, hyper aggression out of Norris, hyper conservative racing out of Oscar Piastri is what I think both of them need to approach this weekend under that mindset.
I think if you're Norris, I don't think you even need to be hyper aggressive yet. I know he will be, but I don't think you need to because you're still only 31 back. I know it sounds like, oh, well, he's over a race back, but a win compared to second is 7 points. He puts himself right back within a race. So if I'm Norris, I know that you want to get the lead off the start, right? And Azerbaijan is a tough track to pass at. You don't want to give up track position. If Norris can just keep the gap where if Piastri doesn't win, if someone else wins, it doesn't even matter really. But if Piastri is going to win and I'm Norris, just take the second place and don't risk something that can lose you more points. If I'm the leader and I'm Norris and Piastri has the ability to make a move on me, let him make the move. You still have another 8 races in the season. So I still think we're a little early for desperation to kick in. A little bit here. Because especially with how close they are, how close on pace they are, they kind of, especially over the summer, they were trading who the fastest car was. So I think if Norris takes his time, he can go out there and win the championship. Although, if you want my prediction, I think Norris is going to drive himself into a mistake, and I think it's going to be a costly one. I don't know if it'll be at Azerbaijan, but in one of the upcoming Grand Prix, I could see that happening. And Piastri, being a cool, calm, and collected driver, doesn't usually, if any, ever fall into that trap. So I would be leaning on the side of Piastri's going to have a nice, calm weekend. Norris is going to be driving with everything to lose, even though he really isn't in that position yet. And we'll see who ends up on top. It also depends who else is fast. I mean, Ferrari's statistically really fast here, especially Leclerc. So, and Verstappen's good here too. So we'll see. But um,
Uh,
that helps me kind of transition. I was going to ask you generally, what do you think for the weekend?
so I do want to kind of go back to the Piastri Norris thing. Um, it's interesting because I think Norris needs to be aggressive, but that does not fit with his driving style and what he's comfortable with. In my opinion, the only way Norris would be able to win this championship is if, and it kind of sounds obvious, but like if he was the one with a big gap, because Norris is the kind of guy that is good without the pressure. You know what I mean? He's not the type of guy that steps up and thrives under the pressure. If he had a 30-point gap, I think I would have no problem thinking he can manage that. Because the pressure is more on Piastri to gain in. Norris can kind of let the foot off the gas, be a lot more conservative and cautious, and that's the way he likes it. He doesn't like the pressure of having to come from behind. So I think this is a tough position for Norris. Whereas if you flip flop roles, if Piastri was 30 behind Norris, I don't. I think Piastri could easily make it up because he's just quicker than Norris. Piastri's the kind of guy that can go in and just pick up wins and even if and make up that gap quickly. Whereas I think Norris, like you said, he could easily fold and make a mistake trying to push too hard. So although I believe Norris has to be aggressive, it's certainly not in his strength. He's going to have to do something that he's never done before, which is come from behind. And we kind of saw it last year, all the mistakes that he made
That
trying
he
to come from behind and
easily
finish
could have
fast.
caught Verstappen.
Yeah, so just this is not where Norris needs to be. If it was flipped, Piastri would have no problem making the gap, but I see Norris having a hard time doing so. But on to the Baku weekends. The first few years of Baku were incredible. All the carnage, all the amazing racing. But under these new regulations, that has not been the case. Ever since we had the car swap in 2022, this track has taken a big downfall, and it's really just kind of a you know pass them on that long main straight, or you're not going to pass them at all. So I'm not expecting the best racing. Now, who knows? It could surprise us. It's a street course, a street circuit, so we could get a bunch of safety cars, have a lot of carnage that sort of shake up the race. But otherwise, I think you're going to see a pretty routine race. This could be one of those races though where we see someone like Ferrari take a step up. Historically, we've seen Ferrari has some poles here at Baku. We've seen Leclerc run well here at times. So this is a big weekend for Ferrari. It's kind of an odd track, so there is a chance for Ferrari to come in with really good pace. And Lewis Hamilton needs to get a podium right now
More than anything.
there's no one in need of a podium right now more than this guy. I mean, we've seen Isaac Hadjar get a podium before him. We've seen Nico Hulkenberg get a podium before him. We've seen all these guys get podiums before Hamilton, who
Is
he,
arguably the
he
I was gonna say he's arguably one of the greatest drivers of all time in just motorsports in general. So
yeah. And it's not like he's been that bad this year. I mean, he's consistent. He's just consistently off the podium. So
it's consistently seventh.
yeah, he needs a podium so bad. And I think this is a weekend where he could get it.
I think I'm not okay. I'll give you my thought, then my prediction. I think the biggest pressure is on Russell, actually, of anybody not in the title fight. Because if I'm George Russell, right, I have the chance to prove, because there is all the rumors of Verstappen going to Mercedes, right? If Russell can close in on Verstappen in points, and I know it's considered a better car, it probably is the better car, but if he can close in on Verstappen in points, if he can outrun Leclerc at a track that Leclerc is historically better than him at, if he can, you know, take Mercedes, I think, are they currently second or are they right behind Ferrari? I don't know. They're really close.
Ferrari second.
If Mercedes can pass Ferrari in constructors this weekend, basically off the back of George Russell, that's a big statement. That's a big statement, especially at a track Russell's weak at. So I don't want to say pressure's on Russell, but a big moment for Russell as a driver could be here if you want to look at it in that perspective. Um, Although my prediction, I just think Leclerc is just so good here, man. I think aside from McLaren, who is just by far the best car, Leclerc is just the best driver I've seen here of everybody that's not in a McLaren. Um, so between him and Verstappen, that'll probably be the fight for the podium, as it typically is. We'll see. I would bet my money that I'll give you my prediction, actually. My prediction is Norris is actually going to come out with the win. I think Norris wins. I think Piastri gets second. I think Verstappen will get third, but I think it'll be close between him and Leclerc. I'm assuming we don't get a chaos race. If we get a chaos race, everything's out the window. But
Yeah.
a normal race, that's my prediction.
Mm-hmm. I was actually going to do that as well. I was going to do my podium picks. I'm going to have Piastri winning this race. I'm going to have Norris second. I'm going to have Leclerc third. I think Ferrari's going to have a good weekend. I think Hamilton's actually going to be in the running for the podium, but Leclerc is a little better right now. So I would have Leclerc getting it over, the Mercedes, Max, Hamilton.
So for reference, for everyone wondering, that would put if we got my result, that would bring the championship gap from 31 to 24. If we got Parker's result, that would bring it from 31 to 38. So it's a big difference. That's a 14-point swing.
Yeah.
So we'll end up seeing. But I did tease it at the start of the episode. I didn't really tease it, actually. I just kind of outright said it. But I said we would do our driver rankings. And it kind of fits with what we were just talking about, the different types of drivers and how everyone's running. And I should clarify what we talked about this beforehand. So the basis of these rankings is not right now, not this current season. It is, but it isn't. So it's a mix of the past couple years and how well we think the drivers are right now. So it's kind of a mix. It keeps everything bottled up. I want to go place by place, and I assume we're going to have a similar back end and front end of this ranking. The middle will look pretty different. That's typically how it is. But I'm ready whenever you are. If you want to just start. By the way, we did count Jack Doohan in these rankings, so we included everyone that made a start in this season.
Yeah. So, all right. So for me, 21 Colapinto, 20 Doohan. I think those are the obvious, bottom two, the Alpine guys. They really have not proven anything to put them ahead of any other 19 driver on the grid. Doohan, I think, is a little better than Colapinto, but
that's like a squirrel finding a nut instead of cheese. I mean, like,
Colapinto's the one in the car. If he finishes 12th this weekend, he probably passes Doohan in terms of the talent. But so yeah, those are the two I have at the bottom.
I'm gonna say I disagree.
You disagree? You have Max Verstappen at 21.
Whoa! I didn't say that. I actually have Lando Norris at 21. No, I'm serious.
Yo!
No, on a serious.
Lando Norris hater.
True. No, but on a serious note, I got Franco Colapinto at 21 as well, and Jack Doohan at 20. My next. Okay, I'm gonna do chunks here because I think it's easier this way. So my next group of drivers is 19 through 17. I have Lance Stroll 19, Yuki Tsunoda 18, and Liam Lawson at 17. I know. Before you say yours, a lot of people love Yuki Tsunoda, and they think he's pretty good. And even if he is, he talked too much trash to get in that Red Bull and do what he's doing. He's ready for the challenge. He's ready for the challenge. He thinks if he fixes a couple of things, he can beat Verstappen. Yeah, okay, bud. So with that, I will rank him as hard as he wants to be ranked. So 18th, and behind Liam Lawson at that.
That's tough. That one hurts.
Yeah. And Lance Stroll, I think, pretty self-explanatory. Not deserving of a seat, but he's a ticking time bomb. Eventually, he'll be out of the car. We'll see how long that lasts, but yeah.
All right, so for me, I actually have pretty much the exact same grouping from 17 to 19, except the order's a little different. I do have Stroll 19. I don't think Talent-wise, it's there. I think he has the talent to be good.
He
He
doesn't
always
care.
had the talent. He had it in GP3, but just something's missing. I don't know if it's he doesn't have the drive anymore. But these last couple years, like after 2020, I was like, Lance Stroll could make a career out of himself, but it just it
Fell
hasn't.
apart.
It
Fell apart.
just fell apart. I don't. Maybe the new car is just not to his liking. With the new 2022 regs, I don't know, but he's just fallen off. And then 18, I have Lawson, 17, I have Sonoda. So it's the same two. I just think Sonoda's a little better. Sonoda's, although Lawson only had 2 races, Sonoda's done a little better in the Red Bull in his time than Lawson did in his time. And I just think talent-wise, Sonoda's better. Talent-wise, I would have Sonoda close to the top 10. I just think right now his performance is just so bad you can't really rank him that high and be fair about it.
Sonoda is the only non-rookie without a podium in Formula One at this point, so that does dwindle over his head as well.
Some rookies have podiums and he still doesn't. Jeez.
Hadjar and Antonelli.
Yeah, and Hadjar has had a car that he used to race in.
Literally.
So what's the excuse? But anyway.
I'll let you take the next reins here. What's your
Okay.
group?
And then the next grouping for me, this is a pretty big grouping. I'm gonna go 15 through 11.
16.
This is kind of some rookies are in here, some midfield guys are in here. 15, I have
16,
Alonso.
16.
Oh, yeah. Okay, 16 to 11. 16, I have Kimi Antonelli. Early on in the year, he was probably the best rookie, but lately he's just fallen off a cliff. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the pressure of being in a top car. He's the only rookie who is in a top car. But I have Antonelli 16. I have him a little higher than the other grouping. I still don't think he's fantastic, though. And then 15, I have Fernando Alonso, who, again, a couple years ago was close to the top 5, but just has not been good lately, is being beat by Lance Stroll right now. 14, I have Behrman. 13, I have Bortoleto. 12, I have Hadjar. There's 3 rookies right there who are all in a very similar tier of doing great jobs in midfield equipment. But right now, I think Hadjar's a little better than Bortoleto, and Bortoleto's a little better than Behrman, which is interesting because coming into the year, I probably would have swapped that order. I probably would have had Behrman and Bortoleto be a little better than Hadjar, but Hadjar's been fantastic this year. All 3 of them have, but Hadjar's just been, kind of the highlight of those 3. And then I have Nico Hulkenberg at 11. Kind of, you think of him as the class of the midfield over the last few years, and throughout most of his career, he's really been that. Finally got the first podium this year. That might be lower than some people have him. There's a couple other midfield guys who you probably have lower than Hulkenberg, but I have Hulkenberg at 11. I just don't think he has quite the pace of some of the other midfield guys who are ahead of him.
Funny enough, my grouping actually follows your grouping, but it just isn't the same order in drivers. At 16 for me, I have Fernando Alonso, and it's okay. I should clarify. This is not a knock on Alonso as much as I just think he's 45, man. He's 45. Like,
yeah,
it's not that he can't drive, but his shining moments are fewer and farther between each year that passes. So race win number 33 that we've been drooling over for 13 years seems farther and farther away each day. 15, I have Kimi Antonelli, the lowest of my rookies. Although, don't worry, because the next one is right in front of him. I have Gabriel Bortoleto. Again, I think there's a little gap between Antonelli and Bortoleto, but it's not huge. Bortoleto, remember, just won the F2 championship last year. He's won every championship that he's competed for in Formula System, so that's worth noting. 13, I have Isaac Hadjar, and 12, I have Ollie Behrman. I'm a Behrman believer. I may be a little biased because I'm a Behrman fan, but maybe a little bit. But I think it's not crazy. I think you could honestly pick up those rookies who you want at the top. Hadjar's doing more with, I think, a little more with that V-carb. I think it's better than a Haas and a Sauber, so I'm giving Behrman a little bit more credit than that. I think he's really shown up the last couple races, and I think Bortoleto's also had some standout races. I can't remember the track. I think back to a couple races ago though, he was like running 7th or 8th. So
yeah,
I know
he made Q3 at Spa.
He made Q3.
He's made Q3 a few times, I believe.
So again, all the rookies look really good. I think if given better machinery, they'd all actually be in about my top 10. So good on them for that. And then my 11, I have. You're gonna hate this. I have Pierre Gasly at 11. I don't necessarily think Pierre Gasly is closer to the rookies than he is my top 10. I actually think he's closer to the top 10 than that. But what I'm missing from him compared to everyone else I have ahead of him is sustained success. I think it's inconsistent with him. Everyone else has done the same thing. I know who they are. Gasly, I feel like every year I'm guessing what type of year I'm getting from him, which is the one flaw in his striving that I have. Um, that's why I can't rank him ahead of the next group of 4 drivers that I have, which I'm sure you also do. You have it 7 to 10? Is this going to work out?
I do have it 7 to 10
Okay, so
actually.
this is perfect. Okay,
Well, I have it 7 to 10, but I have it kind of split into 2 mini groups.
okay,
So
it'll work
yeah,
out. So my 10, I have Carlos Sainz. I know that's a little lower than where you will put
a
him.
lot of people are gonna hate you for that.
I think I could go on a 10-minute tangent about Carlos Sainz. I'm not going to, for time's purposes,
That's
but
off-season content right there.
that's off-season content. But I will say, I think his PR. If I had his PR, I'd be singing an F1 car right now.
Bro,
Um,
that's crazy, bro.
um,
No
I will
way.
say that Nico Hulkenberg at 9. I think he's again. He's been called king of the midfield for 10 years now. He does a great job at what he's asked to do, and he's
That's fair.
dragging a Sauber car and got his first podium this year. I have Ocon at 8. I think he's doing a decent job with the Haas, although he is getting smacked in qualifying. Uh, he does look all right for the Haas standard, and I have Albon at 7 because he is just having a career year this year. And although you'll disagree, I think at least he's breaking out enough where he has earned his spot at that team. He's earned his spot to be at a midfield team
I
in
don't
the sport.
disagree. All right, here we go. My 10 through 7, and it's kind of broken up into 2 tiers. At 10 and 9, I have Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, who are 2 drivers to me who, if I had to draw comparisons, I would draw comparisons to the old Force India duo of Perez and Hulkenberg. 2 very talented drivers stuck in midfield equipment. I believe that if you put Gasly or Ocon in a top car, they would compete. And in terms of the ranking between the two, I think Gasly's a little better. He's always been better in the head-to-head. This year, Ocon's ahead, but Gasly has been better the last few years, and I've seen higher highs out of Pierre Gasly than I have Esteban Ocon. Gasly has more podiums, I believe. Maybe you can fact check me up, but
I think
almost,
they're like the same. I mean,
I'm almost positive he has more podiums. But whatever, I think they're similar, but I think Gasly has a little more raw talent. So that's my ranking there. And then the 2 guys that I have kind of in a different tier are the Williams boys, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. I have Albon 7, Sainz 8. Um, Carlos Sainz um, coming into this year was way higher than Albon, but Alex Albon has destroyed Sainz this year, and so I don't think it feels fair to me to have Sainz ahead of Albon. Although I do think that the upside of Sainz could very well be higher than Albon's right now, because we've seen Sainz win races before. We have yet to see that out of Alex Albon, but I do think we will see it out of Albon in the future. I think
I would
he's
say
the
I think it's
future of the
impending. I think it's an impending.
yeah, it's impending. Right now, Sainz has more upside, but Albon is building. It's only a matter of time before, maybe in the next regs we see the Williams become a top
Please,
car.
we've been waiting
Yeah,
30 years.
imagine if we
30
see Alex
years.
Albon winning races. That'd be incredible. But see, I have Albon 7. And then of course, the top 6 are pretty much the best 6 drivers. We can all agree. Would you like to do yours first?
You know what? We'll go 6-6-5-5. You get the gist here. So, at 6 for me. Okay, I should say my 5 and 6 I battle daily on if I think who is better. I put Hamilton at 6 just because he has been weak this year. He has not looked very fantastic. So I put my 5 ahead of him. I'll wait a second to say that, but I have Hamilton at 6. I think he just kind of is in his own world at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you got? Who you got at 6?
Okay, so for me, I also have Lewis Hamilton at
Yeah,
6th.
yeah.
Right now, he is miles better than everyone behind, but miles behind everyone in front. You know what the perfect way to describe Lewis Hamilton right now
What?
is. You remember that SpongeBob episode where Squidward is in that like weird land and he's like pulling the tiles up and it's just a white surrounding. That's where Lewis Hamilton is in these rankings.
It's funny.
Historically, he's the greatest F1 driver of all time. Right now, he's one of the worst drivers on the grid. So like, or at least by right now, I mean the last
Yeah,
couple of races.
yeah.
He hasn't been that bad all throughout the season, but just the last few races, he's been awful. So it's like he's in this weird middle ground where you don't really know where to rank him. So I have him 6th. I can't. I think it's too disrespectful to Lewis Hamilton to have him behind guys like Albon and Sainz. But I also don't think it's right to have him higher than guys like we have in the top 5, who I think could, if you put any of them in the right car, any of those 5 could win the championship this year. I don't think Hamilton would be
He's
able
in that
to right
same
now.
boat. So,
Yeah.
my 5, I have Lando Norris. I'm anticipating that's who you have there as well. I would be a little. Are you gonna throw me a wrench?
We might have the same top 5. Well, I also have Lando Norris at 5. I think now this year he's actually shown a lot more speed than I expected. I've been impressed. I thought Piastri was going to destroy him, but that really hasn't been the case. Norris has had some good weekends the last few races, so I think he's making improvements. He's getting closer to the top 4, but I think there's a little bit of a gap from Norris to the top 4, just in terms of the raw talent. I don't think Norris has the talent that those top 4 have, so I have him at 5.
Okay, we're gonna find out real quick if we have the same top 5. I know we have the same one because I'd be shocked if you changed that, but we're gonna find
Yeah.
out if we have the same 2 through 4. At 4, I have Piastri.
Oh, okay.
At 4, I have
Wow.
Piastri. I think Piastri is the worst
Okay.
top driver in F1 right now, if that makes sense. I think of those 4, they could all easily win a championship in a year. I would bet on him the least of all of those 4, if that makes sense.
Wow.
In a car that can win it, I should say.
Okay.
That's my take on that. Who's your 4?
So I have George Russell at 4 right now. I know that's going to be tough. There are some people who would have him at 2, and I would not argue it. There are some people that have him at 4, and I would not argue it. Like myself, I have him at 4. Those 3 that we're thinking of, Leclerc, Piastri, Russell, they're just so close. It just kind of comes down to what you prefer in a driver. And right now, Piastri is contending for a title. Russell has yet to have a championship winning car. So we're kind of speculating with Russell. We've seen the talent, we've seen him win races in equipment that is not like the Mercedes this year should not be able to beat the McLaren, but he's done it. He's on the same. Leclerc has yet to win a race this year, but Max Verstappen, who I think we can all consider as the best driver, has done that. So like that says a
Where's the
lot for
bar?
yeah, that says a lot for George Russell to be able to win. And we've seen him win races in inferior equipment before. If Mercedes deliver a championship contending car, Russell can be as good as anyone on the grid. I firmly believe that. I just think right now, since we're speculating, of these 3 drivers, Russell has the most speculation around him, the
The
most guessing about how
least
good he
info to
is.
back him up. Yes.
Yeah, so I have to have him at 4.
At, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna just say them because we've already basically covered it. I actually have them at 2A and 2B. I do not have them ranked. I literally have them as interchangeable. Um, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell. I have 2A, 2B. Um, if
That's
you
awesome.
asked me genuinely, if I had a horrid scenario here, if I had a gun to my head and you asked me who do I had to pick, you're basically saying you got to make a choice. I take Charles Leclerc, but taking Russell would literally not be wrong if you ask me. Like it's just not a wrong
Mhm.
choice. Um, I think I'd take Leclerc, but Russell being over him is not crazy, and Leclerc just has a championship caliber car, and we've seen what he did with it to back up why I have him there.
All right.
And then one I
I
have
have
Verstappen. Sorry, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, there's no debate about that. My top 3: Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen. Um, Leclerc at 2. I actually think there's more of a debate between Leclerc and Russell than there is Leclerc and Piastri, because Leclerc and Piastri are like on a different plane. There's less argument there because Piastri's in a title contending car. Leclerc never has been. Whereas Leclerc and Russell are more comparable. Neither of them have had a title contending car, or at least Leclerc, you could argue 2022 they
he had a half a year as a
yeah, but either way, neither of them have had a full season of championship backing. So, and I want to go back to, and of course, I have Verstappen one. But anyway, back to Leclerc, Russell. Back to what you said about if I had a gun in my head, who would I pick between George Russell and Charles Leclerc? You know, logically, you can't pick between the two, but there's something deep, deep down inside me that's and I don't know if it's the fact that Russell is more emotional than Leclerc. Like when Russell's frustrated, you see it, you know it. When Leclerc's frustrated, you don't. He's had a couple moments where he bursts out, but ultimately with the hand that Leclerc's been dealt in his career, he's kept it pretty cool. Maybe it's that, but something deep down inside tells me that Leclerc's more talented than George Russell. I think it's
I,
insanely close, and there's no logic behind picking one or the other. It's just how I feel in my gut. I think Leclerc has a little more talent than George Russell.
I think Leclerc just brings a little more out of a Ferrari than Russell's bringing out of a Mercedes. I think that's my final take on that.
Okay.
With that, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Nope, that's it. That was I love having Russell tied with Leclerc. Obviously, I don't have that on my list, but they are two almost identical race car drivers right now. It's just Leclerc has done a little more and shown a little more.
Russell
We haven't
thinks
yet to see that
Russell's a
out of
little
him.
more thinking. Leclerc's just a little more raw pace. But either way,
Yeah,
it evens out.
yeah.
So with that, that'll wrap up our third Motorsports edition of Sideline to Speedway. I know last week didn't get published on time. I wanted to make sure I got that out there. I was away. I was racing myself, so I did not get this one out on time. Both will be uploaded as you see this one come out. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to our edition of Sideline to Speedway, and hopefully we'll see you next week after not only the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, but after New Hampshire weekend. Thank you, everybody.
Yep, thank you.